All You Need to Know is brought to you by no one. No one at all.
Welcome to All You Need to Know, the show where you hear about everything and learn about nothing. Here are your hosts, Quinn Eaton and DJ Pig.
Welcome into this episode of All You Need to Know. My name is Quinn Eaton, and with me today is Matt Fitzgerald, or Matty Fitz, or however you want to say. Any variation of Matt Fitzgerald works. But Matt, how are you doing?
What's up, Quinn? I'm doing good. I'm really happy to be back on the pod, discuss some summer movies with you, and just whatever else with you.
I know.
Miss you, bro.
Yeah,
Work-wise, yeah.
right, exactly. Well, a ton of stuff movie-wise to get to. It's been a great summer for movies. I've been to the movies more in the past 2 months than I had in the past 2 years, probably. And I don't know if that's
Well,
just because we had planned to do this episode, or if it feels like the movies are back. It's one of those two things, or a combination of both. But yeah, obviously, always good to have you on with your expertise with cinema. I'm excited, and I need to talk to you about you. Do you do the cinema, the AMC stubs, or is it Regal? Which one do you do?
yeah, I do the AMC A-list, so that's part of
Yeah.
the AMC Stubs program
Hmm.
and free plug for y'all. No, I'm just kidding. But they just added a slot where it used to be the deal is you can see up to three movies every week and you pay a monthly subscription fee of I don't know what it is now, like $27 or something.
Hmm.
But if you just go and it doesn't discriminate between like Dolby or regular screens or IMAX, you can just the ticket is free with the subscription. And even if you see three movies in a month as opposed to like three every week,
It pays for
especially if
itself.
you see in yeah, exactly. If you see it in IMAX or Dolby, especially. So it's the best deal going, and they added a fourth slot recently, so you can see up to four movies a week now. So it's just
Well,
like it's
I,
dope.
I've loved going to the movies recently because I feel like I used to do that a lot whenever I was younger, and obviously I've just been dishing out however much the ticket is every single time, and I have definitely started exploring these whole movie subscription things because it does seem like I think of it as like if you're going to join a golf club, right? As long as you play 2 times a month, it pays for your dues. Same thing with the movie thing. Though I will say, Matt, and I mentioned this to you. I tweeted about it. I didn't have the best movie experience for one of the movies that we went to, and I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way
Right.
before we get to it. It's never happened to me before. We got the movie was supposed to start at 7. You know, the movie theaters are friendly enough now to let you know that there's going to be 25 to 30 minutes of previews and trailers and ads and whatever else before. So I completely prepared for that. We got there around 7:10, still caught all the trailers. This was at an AMC theater. And then obviously the beautiful cinematic Nicole Kidman walking around an AMC theater talking about how heartbreak feels good in a place like this plays. Then the movie screen goes blank. The lights go down, and obviously that's the magical moment, right? Where the movie comes on and you get lost in whatever's on the screen for a couple of hours. The only problem was about 5 seconds of nothing happened, and then the lights came back on, and a lady came around the corner and was like, "Hey, we can't get the movie to play." And I mean, it's not like I was even watching it on IMAX or anything like that. I was just digital for somehow, some way, the digital thing that they got sent for the Naked Gun, which we'll get to later, didn't work. And so they handed out vouchers to come back. I would have probably just rather had my money back because then I went to another theater across town at a later showing to see it.
Yeah,
So
buddy.
I was very determined to see it, and I wanted to support it because it's the opening weekend. Comedy's back. We'll get to that in a little bit, but has that ever happened to you? Have you ever sat down in a theater and the movie not play and they send people home?
Yeah, that actually has happened. I believe, let's see. My parents were living in Toronto, and I think it actually happened when we were trying to go see The Dark Knight Rises, the
Oh,
last
gotcha.
Batman movie in the Nolan trilogy. And yeah, we got sent home, I think, if memory serves, with vouchers. And then it happened again. Several years later, we were going to see the Martin Scorsese movie Silence, and I think this was kind of either right before I went to acting school or just right when I was starting acting school, somewhere in there. but really had a huge
Mhm.
affinity for Adam Driver as an actor, just wanted to see everything that he ever did. So just the fact that it was Scorsese, it was this movie that he had had in his head for about 3 decades that he finally got to make.
Mhm.
And, you know, so it was just like I could talk my parents into being like, let's go see this because I must have been visiting them at the time because I remember they were there. And
That's a tough scene
yeah,
to talk somebody to go to the movies and then the movie not work. I don't
right.
know.
So
Yeah.
so we got like 40 minutes in and then it shut down and
Oh,
then
that's even
yeah,
worse. That's
yeah.
even worse.
So
Wow.
it was tough
Well,
because
all
it's a pretty
that,
like grueling movie, like pretty grim subject matter and
yeah.
stuff. So it was just like, oh, you're like walking out not feeling like, woo.
Well, all that to say, movie theaters, if you're listening, make sure you get your you know what together, because we want to talk about how great the movies are, not the fact that the movie didn't play when we sat down. And the lady that told us that the movie was not going to work made the mistake of saying that she had been on, tech support for over an hour talking, which means that they knew very well that it was likely not to work. Yet they
Yeah.
let me go in and buy $40 worth of concessions, which is just a popcorn and a large drink.
Ooh, yeah.
That to me, not a great look.
Dang.
But
Ouch, man.
as you can tell, Matt, I'm past it. I've let it go. I'm not holding any sort of animosity towards AMC. But anyways, let's talk about the movies that did come on the big screens that we did get to watch. We've got a lot to get to. We're basically summarizing and maybe reviewing a little bit of basically all the summer blockbusters, if you will, that have come out in the past couple months. And like I said, it's been a busy season for the movies. There've been a lot of good movies. There've been some movies maybe not so good. That's what we're getting into today. And correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but today we're discussing Mission Impossible, F1, Jurassic World Rebirth is that title of that one, correct?
Hmm.
Superman, Fantastic Four, First Steps, Happy Gilmore 2, and then finally, like I mentioned a little bit ago, The Naked Gun.
Yeah, that's right.
Great run of
I
movies.
might have called it Jurassic Park Rebirth earlier, but I think that might be because I watched the original right after that one. Anyway, we'll get into it, but
I'll double check the title on that one, but that's mainly what
it
we're
is World. You're right.
okay.
You're right.
Well, that's what we'll be discussing today. Maybe a couple honorable mentions that Matt has seen that he might be able to give a little bit of a quick review on, and then we're also going to talk about some movies that are coming up that we're not discussing today that we haven't seen, obviously because they haven't come out yet, but we're looking forward to some of those. So Matt knows his cinema more than me. I'm just a casual moviegoer, but we're going to do our best to talk about and review some of the best movies and potentially the worst movies that have come out this summer. This is episode 372. Today's topic, all those movies that I just said, we're discussing them. Yeah, Jurassic World,
Yeah, yeah.
which it does, I mean,
I totally said Jurassic Park Rebirth earlier. I was like, oh,
which, it could have been called Jurassic Park Rebirth, right? But I guess they're
I
sticking
rather would
with
have.
I think they're sticking with the World trilogy that had just come out
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
But let's go in order, Matt. Or actually, first, I know that you had said that you had seen, I think, Final Destination and 28 Years Later. Now, I haven't seen those, but those are worthy of honorable mention territory. You could say that those were movies that were worth seeing, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Those were just kind of the two bigger, obviously, Final Destination being, and well, 28 years later, both those being pre-existing franchises.
Mhm.
Uh, Definitely not the, I guess, typical blockbuster you'd think of with some of the movies we'll be talking about in more depth. But yeah, 28 years later, what a fascinating way to kind of bring that back after all this time. And it was pretty good for the most part. I just. My favorite character in the movie was actually in zero marketing material, and to not spoil anything, but he kind of stole the show, and I just felt like the end too was a little bit, I don't know, wonky for lack of a better term, and it yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what
I'm not a huge fan of the franchise to begin with, so I don't
yeah.
know. But
And I don't know a ton about it, but I feel like I saw where another one's coming out, like in the near future. They kind of surprised people with that. Is that like the
yeah,
ending of it was like, hey, this is going to come right back here, and I don't know when the next one comes out, but
yeah, that's kind of some of the wonkiness. Sorry, I got a fly flying around in here. Um, that was some of the wonkiness of the ending I was talking about because it does really kind of tee up the sequel that they've
Yeah.
already, I think, filmed. I think they filmed for these two back to back, and they're
Mhm.
planning on a third one, I believe, with Cillian Murphy in it coming back.
I'd be interested in that.
Which they've announced. I'm not like
Yeah,
spoiling anything.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then there was just the way that they kind of played out the storyline with the mother and the boy, and just kind of what happens at the end there. It didn't really land with me. I just thought it was a little bit. It was almost like trying to be too edgy or something, or
hmm
too, I don't know, like it just didn't feel kind of earned in a way. But I loved Final Destination Bloodlines. I rewatched all the Final Destination movies before that for whatever reason. I just got on a kick and I had
Yep.
Max, now HBO Max. It's been that recent that
hmm
changed. But
So silly,
yeah,
but
yeah, so all those movies are like, over the top and silly, but this one I thought had definitely the best acting, the best story. It seemed more grounded, but also you still have the gory, crazy set pieces that just with the all the advances in technology and modern filmmaking, they're able to execute those better than ever. So I
they
really
did
enjoyed it.
they did a great job with the marketing. And by that I mean they showed enough of the movie to where I was like, there's no way in hell I'm seeing that. I've always been very squeamish when it comes to the Final Destination movies. I don't want
Mhm.
I'm a typically anxious person. I don't need anything else to be anxious about. Obviously, those are very, I guess they make them somewhat realistic situations where the Final Destination part comes in. But maybe I'll get around to those if I'm brave enough. Matt, I think the 28 years later, because that'll end up being a trilogy after the third, the third one comes out. So I
Mhm.
might catch all those, and I think that'd be fun. But the movie that I want to talk to you about, that I am most excited probably to talk about because I love Tom Cruise, and it's bittersweet. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning came out in, was it June or May? This
Yeah, I think
is
might have been late May.
late May, early
Yeah.
June, and this is, you know, what we're told, the end of the Mission Impossible franchise. Obviously, it being called The Final Reckoning, and the whole situation where it was originally Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Part 2, and this got renamed to The Final Reckoning. I personally thought that Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning was a lovely finish to the franchise. Um, I think that they did a great job of, having some callbacks, but them not being totally distracting. And I also think that, that was the beauty of it was that it wasn't setting anything else up. And it really, like, if you watch the Mission Impossibles, you're always led to believe that there's something else to come. And this one kind of ended where it's like there's a finality to it. It seems as though that might have been it. Even though they do have, I feel like, enough of a reputable cast to continue it, but for some reason, if I remember this correctly, Tom wanted to continue to do them, and the studio was more so like, okay, this is where this franchise needs to end.
I don't know exactly the state of the franchise in terms of what the studio was saying about it, but yeah, I just think it's gotten to the point where Tom Cruise has reached that age, I think, where it's maybe time to consider not doing all these death-defying stunts,
hmm
which are as absurd as they've ever been in this movie with
Yes,
the airplane I mean that one stands out very much, but obviously the underwater sequence
the
is so
submarine.
intense. And yeah, just yeah, this was kind of a love letter to the whole franchise, and I thought a lot of the callbacks worked and kind of I guess we can talk about spoilers. It's been months since it's been out.
Yes.
So, but when they bring back the guy from the original movie who was
hmm
in the room when he's hanging down and
On the wire,
floating down
yeah.
on the wire and all that, that was done so tastefully and executed so well. And you could tell he was pretty thrilled to be
hmm
back. And it was very unexpected because I didn't see anything about that when
I didn't
the
either.
movie was announced and I'm usually pretty dialed in on like who's going to be in it, who's not.
hmm
And yeah, that was such a pleasant surprise. I was like, wow, that's so cool.
And you mentioned the two scenes that had me on the edge of my seat, peak cinema, some might call it, were the ending stunt with Tom, and that was the one that they really showed a lot of in the marketing for the film. Tom hanging on to, biplanes and like it legitimately was whenever they were filming it. He set the record, I think, for most parachute jumping out of a plane with a parachute on fire, which I mean, I didn't know that was a world record worthy thing, but he shot that like 15 times where he jumped out of a plane and his parachute was on fire. And then the submarine scene is possibly the most impressive, not only stunt, but just sequence of events, how they filmed it, how they shot it, how there was no score whatsoever. It was literally just Tom Cruise, and you just heard like underwater noises, and it literally you were scared to death for Tom Cruise's life, as you often are whenever you're watching any Tom Cruise movie, I guess at this point. I'm a huge fan of the Mission Impossible franchise. I will say it's not my favorite Mission Impossible. I think Fallout or even Dead Reckoning was a great was my favorite Mission Impossible movie out of all the entire franchises or the entire collection of the films. But Final Reckoning was a great like tie a bow on it. This is it. And obviously there was I don't know if you ever saw the conspiracy that it looked like he might have been walking off with I can't remember the actress's name. They just showed someone with longer hair that looked like a character who had passed away in the previous
Oh,
film. I don't know if you saw anything about that.
I did not. That's a very interesting theory. I dig
All
it.
while Ethan Hunt's wife is still out there. I think that
Right.
myself and my wife like binge watched all of these, and she couldn't shake the fact that it was like, wait, so he's still married or he's not married? That's and I was like, don't worry about
Uh,
that. Just worry about the fact that Tom's hanging off that plane. That's not him may or being married or not being married, not important to the plot. But I did enjoy the movie. I mean, I don't know. We didn't talk about giving movies like ratings. But if we
mm.
wanted to, like out of 4 out of 5 AY and 2Ks for me is what I would give Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Yeah, I just started Letterbox pretty recently, so it's mainly just for me to kind of follow my good friend on there and for her to
Hmm.
see what I write and for me to see what she writes because she's a prolific letterboxer. She
Hmm.
has like
I've had someone trying to get me
thousands
to
of
do it.
films
Yeah.
on there. Yeah, it's really fun. And yeah, I've just been kind of going through and writing stuff mostly about movies that I like. I don't know, I don't like just sending out
Hmm.
negative reviews in there. I don't know. It doesn't feel that great. But yeah, so that's been fun. And I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 on there as
Yeah.
well. I agree with you that Fallout is I would say Fallout is the best of the franchise, the peak.
Not even just my favorite Mission Impossible movie. Like one of my favorite movies of all time is Mission Impossible Fallout. I think it's just
Yeah,
perfect.
I was telling my buddy to watch it. He didn't see it in theaters, and I was telling him to watch it. I was like, "Oh, watch this with you." I told him it might be the best action movie of all time,
Yeah,
and he was like, "No way." And then we watched it. He's like, "I think you
I
might
get
be
it.
right."
I get it. I definitely get it.
So, yeah.
Well, and another popular action movie this summer, especially people that are into Formula One, were I think excited, but then also potentially a little bit skeptical approaching the F1 film
Mm.
that came out with Brad Pitt. I'll be honest with you, Matt. The next two movies that we're reviewing or talking about, you'll have to carry the weight because I did not see them. So
Okay.
just putting that out there. F1. I'm not a Formula One fan. I like Brad Pitt. I think it's a movie where like once I see it on streaming, I'll check it out. But it wasn't one that got me to the movie theater. But I did see some stuff was like, is it? I know that Formula One drivers are typically a lot younger, they're shorter stature. So was Brad Pitt able to overcome those things and be a believable F1 driver?
Yeah, he really was a believable F1 driver. Just the fact that they had Lewis Hamilton, a legendary F1 driver,
Mhm.
on the movie as a producer and creative consultant and all this stuff. So all the plot points in the story, it's not most sports movies can kind of fall prey to criticism in the vein of, oh, that wouldn't really happen in if it's a football movie, that wouldn't really happen in the NFL or that wouldn't really happen in the NBA or like whatever. But they were so kind of dialed in on what is possible and what's not that there were just really all the story beats with Brad Pitt's character and how he kind of I won't obviously give anything away because I want you to see it, but the way the sort of kind of gamesmanship that he pulls off as a driver and just his savvy is really it's executed so well, and there's so much more humor in the movie than I would have ever expected.
Interesting.
Javier Bardem plays kind of the overseer of the team that Brad Pitt races for, and he's genuinely hilarious. There's some really like laugh out loud moments, and so I mean, I just feel like all the supporting cast too, the younger hotshot driver that Brad Pitt is teammates with, they have what could easily be sort of a stereotypical old grizzled vet, young
Hmm.
gun mentor sort of clashing relationship, but they do a good job of not being too obvious about it. There are more layers to it than you would probably think just at face value. And yeah, man, I'm a big Brad Pitt's character's name, Sonny Hayes. I'm a big Sonny Hayes fan, man. It's
And were you an F1 fan going into it, or do you keep up with the sport? Or
I, I know like broad strokes of it, and I'm sure I've written about it before as a professional writer, so I've had to do kind of crash coursey research on it. But my best friend out here in New Jersey, he's a huge F1 guy. He's a Team Ferrari fan, and so I know a little bit, but the movie does a good job of like walking the audience through the what you need to know about F1, but also not hitting you over the head with it and being too hand-holdy.
yeah,
So
that's what, and I feel like that would be my assumed hindrance with the movie is like you either don't know enough about it going in and they don't fill you in, or you do know a lot about it and then you're frustrated by the fact that the movie is acting like you don't. And that's a tough, tightrope to walk. But it sounds like from what you've told me that this movie does walk that tightrope very well.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, this is literally my favorite movie of the summer, favorite movie of the
Wow.
year. It's a 2 hour, 35-minute movie that just flies by. And
Hmm.
I would say, I mean, I don't know if it's playing anywhere still. I think it might be playing a little bit. If you can get it on any kind of big screen, I would highly recommend it because it's very
Gotcha.
immersive, and especially when you're on the track and it's driving around and you've got some good sound pumping
Hmm.
in. It's got a catchy theme song too, composed by Hans Zimmer, because Hans
Yeah.
Zimmer is just doing Hans Zimmer things and killing it as usual.
Hmm.
Uh, no, dude, it's awesome. I couldn't recommend F1 highly enough.
5 out of 5. That
Yeah, yeah,
Five
five
out
out
of
of
five.
five for sure.
Okay. Well,
Hmm.
let's move on then to a movie that I don't believe will get a 5 out of 5 from you, and that's Jurassic World Rebirth. Now, I will let you tell your Jurassic World Rebirth experience. Um, I will preface it by saying that I saw trailers for it. I love watching trailers, and if a trailer really hooks me, there's a movie that we'll talk about that's coming out later this year that the trailer has gotten me to be like, okay, I don't like this genre typically, but I think I'll go see this. With Jurassic World Rebirth, I saw the trailer, and even though it's got some heavy hitters, right? Scarlett Johansson was Idris Elba? No, it wasn't.
Mahershala Ali.
Mahershala Ali, yes, he is in it. I just felt like I'd seen that same movie like 2 times before in the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park franchise. So and listen, I love dinosaurs. I'm reading a book about dinosaurs right now, and I have seen every other Jurassic Park, Jurassic World movie, and Jurassic World Rebirth. I was like, I might catch it when it's on a streaming service, but I didn't have the desire. And this is the first one of the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World franchise that I did not go and see in the theaters.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of the original Jurassic Park. Even the second one was pretty good too. I
Yep.
mean, it's a Steven Spielberg movie. How low can he go really in
Hmm.
terms of like even the bottom of his filmography in terms of like critical acclaim or success or whatever is still going to be, in my opinion, pretty good. But yeah, since the first Jurassic World, I kind of gave up. I hadn't seen uh Fallen Kingdom or Dominion, and they
Yep.
were both kind of panned critically. I still think they probably did fine box office wise, but yeah, but I just was thinking, I'll give it a shot. I'm this is sort of a soft reboot of the franchise. Let's see. Scarlett Johansson signed on. Jonathan Bailey, who I loved in Wicked as Fiyero. It's a
Hmm.
very different role for him. Was interested to see how that went. And Mahershala Ali, obviously, he's a Oscar-winning actor. I mean, he's a heavyweight. So
And they didn't really market him in it that much. And
no.
I didn't see the movie, so I don't know what happens to him. But anyways, go ahead.
So the movie. I'm not trying to be rude. You know, if I ever had the amazing fortune and long shot Cinderella story of working with any of these people someday, I'm not trying to put anybody down, man. But it just felt like a bit of a made by committee studio movie where they just say, okay, we need to sort of, we have these mandates of what we want in the story and just do that basically. And dinosaurs and action, and
And
we'll make
Scarlett
a lot of
Johansson.
money.
Yeah.
And Scarlett Johansson. Which, so it's made a lot of money. I
It
last I saw it was
did.
over $800
Yeah.
million at the box office, which just blows my mind. But like, okay, I'll stop dancing around it. I did not like the movie. I feel like Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Mahershala Ali, the way that they are developed early in the story when they're sort of on the way to the island on this boat, they're it's very thinly drawn, and I was kind of laughing. I was like, what?
Hmm.
Seriously, this is all they're gonna do character development wise before we just like jump in and and the actors are doing the best they can with what they're given,
Right.
but it's just really hard to buy. And then it's sort of similar to the first movie because I just rewatched the original movie as a palate cleanser after seeing this. So it sort of parallels the first movie in terms of like there's sort of a plot with scientists and then there's a plot that's more family driven. And so they have this plot that's family driven, I think just as a nod to the original movie, similar A B plots sort of later in the movie around the midpoint, and it was bad. Like it just nothing about it worked. There's this boyfriend character and with his girlfriend who's the daughter with his dad and her brother, and it's so bad. Like it's just
And
I
you and
couldn't
you
believe it.
you walked
And
out, correct?
I walked out. I walked out of the movie before it was over,
Yeah.
right before the set piece was about to start, and it was just a very predictable sort of gag that they were doing, and I couldn't take it. They needle dropped the original theme 10 minutes before that at a moment that I didn't feel like was earned at all, and I just was like, you know what, man, this is just nostalgia cash grab. Like, I'm
And
out.
and to be honest with you, it feels like it's a real shame. But I do, and obviously they made a ton of money too, so they're probably just going to continue to make I'm sure there'll be another one of these with Scarlett Johansson in it. But I just don't. I'm sure there's a way to do dinosaurs still and it work. And obviously the brand itself probably carried it to the over $800 million mark at the box office. But it's just like I don't know what else. Jurassic World, I will admit, was like fresh. It was different. Um, but still I felt like I was just watching a different version of Jurassic Park. And I don't know if they're ever going to be able to get away with that. Especially, you have to just consider how good, like if Jurassic Park came out and there was nothing else after it, the rewatchability of that movie, it still holds up to this day. It would be considered like the best standalone movie of all time. Now I just feel like they're stretching it out. I'll watch it at some point, but after you told me that you had walked out of the theater, I was like, all right, I don't know if I'm going to go see this one, but I'll once again wait to see it whenever it's more convenient for me. But out of 5 stars, you're giving it, you know, can you
Yeah,
rank it if you walked
yeah,
out or
yeah. Butt cheeks. I would give it that out of
butt
five.
cheeks out of
No,
five? Okay.
yeah, like I don't even, but again, it's just like I don't mean to be disrespectful. It wasn't for me. It
Yeah.
was just, man, like I don't know. I couldn't believe that, and I still can't believe that it's making all this money, but
Hmm.
we'll see what the future is. If there are any aspiring screenwriters out there, have a Jurassic Park slash World pitch ready, and if you
Yes.
make a good version of this, you'll make $1 billion apparently. So
I think so. That's exactly right. Maybe I'll get on that. Maybe I can try
yeah,
to
there you
pump
go.
something out. But a movie that had a great script, had a great vision, had great marketing, Superman. Superman,
Yeah, baby.
I guess you could say reboot of the DC universe with James Gunn at the helm, has there's been a lot of discourse about the film. I went and saw it first day that I could, and I haven't, I mean, I can't remember the last DC movie that I did that. Maybe the second Suicide Squad was the last movie that I did that for. And obviously that's a James Gunn film. And I just kind of have grown to expect that James Gunn's going to do something good with everything that he's done. Obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy for Marvel, crossing over to DC with the second Suicide Squad, which was a little bit of a reboot there as well. And then Peacemaker is one of the funniest, superhero things that I've seen. I'm excited for
Oh
that
yeah.
second season that's coming out soon. But Superman, obviously, this was a huge step for DC. This is like they had to nail this one. And personally, I think that they did. Do you agree?
I totally agree. It was a lot to take in the first time I saw it, and but I thought it was really good, and I went to go see it again just to kind of confirm,
Mhm.
and I liked it even more. There was, yeah, I mean, I just thought it's so cool. I thought it was a stroke of genius, actually, that they started the movie with that sort of series of title cards with like 333,
Mhm.
like 3 centuries ago, three. It was a very creative way and succinct way to get a lot of exposition in and establish what this new DC universe is of interconnected films and shows and everything. And because the first part of the movie is pretty busy already, so that
Yeah.
did a lot of heavy lifting and just got us off and running. And yeah, I mean, that's just one example of just how well realized it was. Like you said, how good the script is, because James Gunn, the writer, director, and head of DC Studios, he's talked about they are not going to greenlight a movie until they are fully like on board with the script,
Yeah.
and they're taking that very seriously, and I really appreciate that because we're kind of seeing with Marvel that there's a bit of a formulaic Marvel fatigue situation. We'll get to that in a minute.
Mhm.
But this new this new frontier of DC Studios, I'm just really excited to see what's next because I feel like so much good stuff was set up in this. So you can
Yeah.
talk about some of the stuff you liked in particular.
Well, and I think it'll be interesting to see because obviously this had James Gunn's fingerprints all over it. It'll be interesting to see, that first movie of the DC universe that comes out that isn't James Gunn. Obviously, Gunn would be an executive producer on it. Um, and I think that they have like the vibe that they want to take into the rest of the DC movies. But yeah, I thought it was a great start for DC. It brought interest from someone like me who has been more pro Marvel in recent years and hasn't bothered seeing some of the DC stuff, especially with just how bad, the reviews, whether it was just the fact that people didn't like DC or if the stuff that they were making was actually really bad. I didn't care to watch it. This brought me back. It brought me in. I'm excited to see what else comes in the future with DC. Obviously, one of the big conversations around it was that Superman wasn't this invincible superhero that we've all kind of come to assume and know in recent, editions of Superman. And like Man of Steel, there were some moments where it felt vulnerable. But then I didn't even see, I don't know, the Batman versus Superman and the Justice League. I watched, bits and pieces of that. But this one is like Superman could die. And he got his, pardon my French, Matt, he got his shit rocked a lot throughout the movie. And I was just like, man, I mean, Superman is getting the hell beat out of him. But then obviously it was one of those situations where, he always got back up. And at the end of the movie, it all, resolves itself. And I think it was just interesting. Obviously the storyline was great. The other superheroes that were in it, I think only added to the storyline and the movie itself, which I feel like is hard to do because sometimes it just feels like you're fan servicing. This was like, oh no, this is, greatly supporting what's actually happening. But with all the discourse about Superman just getting beat up for 2 hours. How do you feel? How do you take that? Do you feel like that makes him feel more human? Do you think that that's a take that you understand? How would you view that?
I guess I understand where that sort of simple take would come from, but at the same time, I think part of what makes Superman a compelling character is that he's vulnerable, and when he is more vulnerable, he's more interesting. And the last thing he sort of says to Lex Luthor is about his humanity, and it's more about it really leans into the contrast of what he was apparently sent to Earth to do that he misinterpreted that kind of drives the plot
Right.
with his family saying
Yeah.
to be a ruler.
Bradley
Eh,
Cooper being his father in the movie, a little distracting, but I'll
I
I'll let
really
it slide.
appreciated, sure, sure. I really appreciated though how they did a completely different sort of foreign language, Kryptonian
Hmm.
language. That was a nice touch to kind of differentiate it, and I guess for me not make it as distracting because it's, Bradley Cooper was very, but I couldn't actually, there were a couple times where he made some facial expressions actually right at the end of the original message loop. He does this sort of
Yeah.
face and it looked Robert De Niro-ish, and it was
Hmm.
very funny because I know he's very fond of Robert De Niro, and
Hmm.
so that was one thing that I thought was quite funny. But
And that's just an example of James Gunn having his collection of people that he's worked with a lot that you're going to see them pop up in a lot of what he does. And that
yeah,
was obvious
exactly.
with a couple other actors. But you were saying,
Sorry, yeah. So the he's more interesting when he's vulnerable, and the person he was getting beat up by for the most part, somewhat the engineer, but more Ultraman, who turns out to be, spoiler alert, a clone of him. So he's
hmm,
getting beaten up by himself, but a less discerning, less polished, far less moral version. It's basically a Lex analog who's beating him up. So Lex has the tactical genius that he can deploy and
right.
has a vessel to, yeah, beat Superman that way. And Superman is put in that sort of kill or be killed situation toward the end, and he has to do what he has to do to send his clone into a black hole. But yeah, the movie is just, yeah. So I think it's more interesting that way. And you have to figure out some kind of way to put him in difficult situations. And it's boring if he's just crushing everybody all the time, I
Right.
guess, is what I would say to
And
that.
it was an ass off performance by Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. It
Yeah.
was nuts. He was phenomenal. And I think I don't know if I'm wrong in saying that. I think he had auditioned for Superman and then got the part, like later found out that he might be better suited as Lex Luthor. And I feel like if that's true, the dynamic of that, where like the guy who wanted to play Superman is now playing his arch nemesis. I think that worked out beautifully on screen. I was really impressed with Nicholas Hoult. Obviously, is it David Corn Sweat? Is it Corn Sweat or
Yeah.
Corn Set?
Yep, that's right.
Um, he was great as Superman as well. I think that they did a great job because there was the news where it was like, oh, they're going to keep um, the guy who played Superman formerly. What is his name? Henry
Henry
Cavill.
Cavill?
They were going to keep him on, and then they obviously went away from that. And I think that, as much as that probably hurts Henry Cavill, and I honestly feel like Henry Cavill was a great Superman, but I do think that they went the right way with almost this little bit of a reset. And I do just want to ask this quick question because obviously it's a reset for DC. They're keeping Peacemaker though. That's going to be canon to the rest of the DC universe from here on out. And obviously, he had a hilarious cameo in the Superman movie. And just real quick, why do you think they are being so hesitant? And likely they won't do it, but with Robert Pattinson's Batman, why do you think if that's already seen success and characters from that universe have already seen great success with the Penguin spin-off show, why do you think they wouldn't go with Robert Pattinson as the Batman for that universe?
I think that with Batman, Matt Reeves was trying to do very much his own thing, and they're off to such a rip-roaring start with the Batman and the Penguin show that was so acclaimed and really brilliant. They're trying to build their whole crime saga that way, and I just think tonally it's just so much different
And
and
what
grittier than what I think James Gunn wants to do with the DCU. So I think that's part of the reticence there, even though it'd be obviously a huge draw because Robert Pattinson is one of the biggest stars out there and one of the greatest, most versatile actors
Yeah,
working today. But it would be fun to kind of see that dynamic play out. But I
I think
just
so
think
too.
the way that just the way Gotham is situated and Metropolis and in the DCU, it's similar to what they did in Batman v Superman and Zack Snyder's continuity. They're having Metropolis and Gotham be very close to each other, kind of like across the bay. And I just feel like, just atmosphere wise, it just looks so different in the way that the cinematography is. I don't know if they can really make all that come together, maybe somewhere down the road, but I would rather kind of see a different Batman, even though it could be confusing initially for audiences. But to your point about Nicholas Hoult, actually, it was actually between him and Pattinson for the Batman.
Mm.
And he missed out on that. And then you're right, he screen tested for Superman and didn't get that either. So there's this whole meta quality about him being Lex Luthor. And it's not that I was thinking about that during the movie, but I'm sure there's like some part of Nicholas Hoult that's drawing on some of that,
Yeah, like
feeling the type of way about close
he,
misses with those.
he's tapping into the character, and like I'm sure I mean he was so fired up in so many of the scenes that he had to
Yeah.
have gone to a place where he's like they didn't think you were good enough for this, so show them what you can do, kind of thing. And it was clear to me watching it. Great movie. Like I said, step in the right direction for DC.
Oh yeah.
I'm in. I thought that they could have. I think that they could have done without like the Supergirl tease. I
Mm,
understand that that seems to be the next step for them. I think, if you're going to do an end credit scene, maybe throw it in there. That was like during the movie. It felt like an end credit scene in the movie. It's fine. I think that that'll be more of like a Guardians of the Galaxy feel to that movie. But I'm excited. I would give Superman 4 out of 5 for sure.
yeah, I think on Letterboxd I went 4.5.
Mhm.
After the second time I saw it, it was initially four and then 4.5 after the second time. And it's not perfect. I feel like the engineer could have been a little more fleshed out, like her motivations,
Yeah,
and uh, but overall, yeah, just all the things that this movie set out to do. I thought Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern, was hilarious.
very
All the
nice. Yes,
Lois and Clark stuff worked. Rachel Brosnahan and David Corenswet as
that
Lois
long
and Clark, just
that
awesome.
that long scene where they're just talking
Oh
in her
yeah,
apartment. Um,
fantastic.
at one point I got lost in it. I was like, wow, they've been in their apartment for a long time. I kind of finally came out of it. It was hypnotizing what they were doing, and to do that in
Right.
a superhero movie, I feel like is uh, very much taking a shot, but it worked. Um, and hey, I gave it a 4. You gave it a 4.5. Perfect transition right into the next film that we're talking about. Fantastic
A
Four, First Steps. This, in a way, Superman is a reset for DC. I think that Marvel was going somewhat in the same vein of we need to get this ship back on track. Obviously, I would argue they didn't go as off course as DC did, but there has been a lot of discussions with Marvel, uh, the quality of which they were held to, the standard that they had created, starting with the very first Iron Man and continuing, throughout over a decade of very intricate uh, movie making and linking them all together. Like if you look back, whenever you look back on it, it's crazy that they're able to plant all those seeds and it all come to fruition. But they needed a win. I personally thought Thunderbolts, we didn't talk about that. I thought Thunderbolts was a win. I loved Thunderbolts. Had some mental health themes that I thought were, I've never seen in a movie, in a superhero movie before. I thought that was a very fresh thing. But even Kevin Feige admitted that it didn't do as well because people thought that they missed the boat, right? They were like, oh, I didn't watch the
right.
show that was on Disney Plus that this character was in. I didn't watch this movie where that person cameoed in. So I understand why Thunderbolts was not widely accepted. I thought it was fantastic, and I know I just said the Fantastic Four, so that not the best adjective to use, but I think Thunderbolts was a great like okay, here we go, reset. I would highly recommend that movie for people to go back and check out if you missed it. But then Fantastic Four: First Steps. This is an all-star cast that they bring to a franchise that has felt like it would be super easy to put on the big screen and it be a win. And I mean, the early 2000s Fantastic Four movies, I personally like. I know they're a little cheesy. That scene where Ben Grimm is trying to pick up his ex-wife's wedding ring off the bridge, like that scene in either the first or second Fantastic Four from the first time that they tried it. I'll never forget that one just because I was like, did they really just do that? But obviously the 2015 version should have been a win. Miles Teller, Michael B.
Yeah.
Jordan felt like that was going to do well. I just watched that again before I saw
Oh,
the new
really?
Fantastic Four, and it's not good.
Oh,
It's not
buddy.
good at all. But Fantastic Four first steps. Obviously, you've got Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and I am scared to death to say the last guy's name, Eben Moss Bachrach. That's my best. That's my best go at it, Matt. It's a great cast. I personally thought it was a great movie. Of course, you've got the Silver Surfer, played by, I am not going to get that name right either.
I think it's Julia Garner.
Julie
Yeah.
Garner, and then Galactus finally makes his big screen debut. And the actor who was behind Galactus, perfect voice for the
Oh my
role.
gosh. Yeah.
I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I thought the retro futuristic world that they built, the world building with this movie was awesome. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I'll say, and I'll open the floor to you, I think it could have been longer. I think it could have been 15 or 20 minutes longer. But go ahead, Matt. What did you think of Fantastic Four First Steps?
I couldn't have said it better myself with that last point, man. The movie's an hour 55 minutes and it just feels like there's all this connective tissue cut out of it and I'm
Hmm.
struggling to understand why they cut John Malkovich's role. He was supposed to
Right.
be in the beginning of the movie and maybe toward the end too. I don't really know. But to have an actor of that caliber finally make the leap into superhero fare and to have him in this retro futurist, like you say, beautiful city, I would just have loved to see what John Malkovich did with that.
Hmm.
And
Love
maybe
him in
there'll
every
be deleted
movie.
scenes someday or something,
Yeah.
but or maybe he'll come back around in another movie. They'll kind of pay him back for cutting him out of this one. But yeah, I just felt like they were skipping through a lot of stuff and they could have taken more time because I think they had to have known that they had this great opportunity in this other universe to create this retrofuturist world and they just executed all that super well.
It was
But it's like
phenomenal.
we need time with these characters. They're about to jump into Avengers Doomsday with Doctor Doom, who we get a tease with at the very end in the post-credit scene. But other than that, there's nothing. And there's just nothing to sort of like foundationally like play into that conflict. And they're about to jump into a whole much larger ensemble with characters that
We've seen a
the
lot of.
audience
Yeah.
have been invested in for years. And it's like, why are we rushing through this movie? And
Hmm.
I thought it was executed well for what it was, but it's just like you have this great cast. They all have good chemistry. They're all given really good performances.
Yeah.
The central conflict is pretty solid. The Silver Surfer I thought was dope too. And
Oh, some of
and
those
they did
scenes where she's surfing through the through
that
while they're like
space chase,
the
dude. That
space
space
chase
chase is
and
probably my favorite scene in the
the birth
movie.
scene. That might I've heard people say that's the best scene Marvel has ever pulled off. And I wouldn't I
It's up
wouldn't
there.
disagree. I wouldn't disagree, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's up there. I would say though that yeah, the end kind of subverted expectations. I was expecting it was predictable to a degree, the story, but I was expecting their universe to end or something to catalyze them to come into the main MCU
Right.
or whatever, or they would have to give up their son, but they subverted expectations. I mean, I guess you're in a typical movie, you're expecting the heroes to be able to have their cake and eat it too, like keep the kid, save the world. But it really seemed like they were going to have to do one or the other. And I just assumed it was going to be the world is going to end and then they have to
And
go to the Marvel 616. But
and I think that that was a lot of people's guesses. I thought the exact same thing, especially to go back to Thunderbolts. The post-credit scene there was the Fantastic
yeah,
Four ship coming into their Earth 616 atmosphere. That led a lot of people to believe, like, oh, they must be fleeing and they must lose at the end of their movie. And I'm sure the studio is just a little scared to do that. But thinking of a movie where the bow wasn't tied up at the end, Adventures of Infinity War, how memorable that was, how shocking it was to walk out of the theater, and how much anticipation it built for the next movie. Um, I think they could have done that again, but I also don't necessarily dislike how they did it, how they ended it with Fantastic Four First Steps, especially with I think it's been confirmed that it was Robert Downey Jr. who filmed that his role, even though they didn't show his face. If that is him, why not just show his face? Like, I don't get that part necessarily, but I do want to point out that it felt for there for a second, if you squinted your eyes and you heard Pedro Pascal say something about a baby and it must be protected, I thought I was watching The Mandalorian. And I think that plays into the Pedro Pascal fatigue. I think the only reason why I think that is because I've seen him in a role where there's a baby and he doesn't know exactly what he's doing and he wants to protect the baby at all costs. I think that that just plays into that. The whole Pedro Pascal fatigue thing, do you buy into that? Do you think that it's just the fact that, hey, this guy's good, he's getting the work that he deserves? I thought he was a fine Reed Richards. But like I said, it was like, okay, he's going to be in a, I think the Mandalorian and Grogu movie comes out next year. Like it might feel like I'm watching the Fantastic Four First Steps again.
Right, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I actually love Pedro Pascal. I think I really dig him in whatever he's done. But yeah, I mean, there is something to that. He's had Materialists and Eddington and now Fantastic Four this summer, just like three right in a row there.
Yeah.
So I do get some of the fatigue around him and maybe, but I think this role, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Adam Driver was approached for it and he said he didn't connect with the character on the page. I mean, that's been reported. I don't
Hmm.
honestly, like I don't want to put any words in his mouth or like say something that like he straight up never said. Um, but like that was, I guess, this report. I think it was Jeff Snyder, the In Snyder guy. He's does some good scoops, so I'm inclined to be like, okay, like that makes sense, if even if it's not the exact thing or whatever. The general sense is like Adam Driver was approached for it, I think, and so he turned it down, and then yeah, Pedro Pascal. That came out during the sort of actors writer strike, I think, the
Hmm.
news of him being cast. So, no, but I think he did a really good job,
He was
man.
good.
Like,
Vanessa Kirby was, I think, the best of the entire cast. I think the obviously the actor who's I think most famously known for his role in The Bear, brought a lot of humanity to Ben Grimm. I thought that was probably the best portrayal of the Thing that we've had. And then Joseph Quinn's Johnny Storm was good. He
mhm.
never said "flame on," which is something that's been reported on. And I didn't even notice, so I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. But maybe parts of that movie that were cut out, he did say it, and it felt like it would have been good, like banter, like he's bothering the Thing the whole movie to say his catchphrase. Feels like
Hmm.
it could have just used both catchphrases and kind of played, poked fun at the fact that they both had those two very memorable and iconic catchphrases. But I will give Fantastic Four First Steps like 4.5 out of 5, I think. Um, the only thing I will take is like there could have been another 15, 20 minutes of just me seeing them talk in their house, and I would have loved it just because of how well like you didn't feel like there was just a big green screen around like some of the other Marvel movies that have come out recently or in recent years. This was like a world that had been built. It gave a lot of I think it's done by the same the director that did Loki, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or
I
some
know
sort of
he
connection
did.
there.
Yeah, I think it actually was WandaVision, which
WandaVision. Yeah,
which
yeah.
has that. Yeah, so you're on the right track. It had that same sort of. They were doing that old-timey sitcom,
Yeah.
which is sort of
Matt
carried
Shackman.
accurate to
Does
where
that
the.
sound right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's sort of tied into what the set design was going to be for Fantastic Four too, just a little more embellished to
Yeah.
emphasize the technological advances made thanks to Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four, you know. So
Yeah, and the score and everything about it, I enjoyed
yeah.
it. I'm excited to watch it again. I don't know if I'll go to the theaters and watch it again. And it's also been interesting to see too. I don't know if you've seen the reports where like they had a huge drop from their first opening weekend to the second opening weekend, and now people are calling it a flop, which I don't think is the case. I think the movie just needs to stay in theaters for an extended period of time, and it'll be fine. Um, I think people are now like kind of rooting against, like they're happy to see a Marvel movie or a DC movie not do well. And I hate that. I think that these last two movies from Marvel with Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four have both been very unique, been unlike anything I've seen in the superhero genre. So I hope that the momentum keeps building in that sense. But
I agree with
any
you.
other Fantastic Four thoughts here?
Yeah, I agree with you. The about to touch on the Thunderbolts, that was a big swing they take in the final act, and kind of what you're saying, the mental health issues that they touch on. I thought for the most part it really connected, and Florence Pugh carried that movie really well.
Yeah.
She's awesome, and the whole cast really was quite good, and they gave most of the characters, other than maybe Ghost, a lot to do, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah, and it's just unfortunate that more people didn't see that. And I think it does play into what you're talking about there about there's maybe a little bit of, oh, superhero movies, we're kind of bitter about them. But then it's like, well, then why don't you go see stuff like Materialist or
Yeah,
whatever more often to support those movies? And but like people just want to wait for streaming a lot of the time. But also I think there's a lot of competition at the box office. It seems like this
definitely.
summer there's been just like one after the other
Well,
big
yeah,
tentpole releases, and some
that's
of
what we're
that I think
talking.
is still the uh effects of the COVID and then the strikes and everything. Just everything got
Mhm.
backed up for so many years. But yeah, Fantastic Four, first steps, it was a good start. I wanted to like it more than I did, I think. And
Mhm.
but I will be interested to kind of just watch it one more time and see how I feel. But yeah, like it was solid, but I think I don't know. Maybe I liked it a little better than Thunderbolts, but yeah, so I guess they're both pretty good, man. So
Good. We're in agreement there. And you mentioned streaming. Some people love a straight to stream movie, and the biggest one of this summer, I guess, would be Happy Gilmore 2. And the process to bring Happy Gilmore 2 to life felt to me like it was very fast. It was like you all of a sudden hear Christopher McDonald say that they're working on Happy Gilmore 2. Then Adam Sandler confirms it, and then they're filming it, and then it's out. I mean, obviously, with hindsight, it feels like things went by a little bit faster, but now and obviously with hindsight now too, thinking of like, wow, it seemed like that all happened very fast. It kind of comes off as this was all put together pretty quickly. But I think it was a very respectable, fine, straight to streaming movie. I if I would have gone to the movies to see this, I'm not sure how I would have felt. But the fact that it was like, oh, Happy Gilmore 2 is now on Netflix, I'm gonna check it out. I think it was a obviously a lot of callbacks to the first film, and I don't know if they had to do that. I don't know how you felt about that, but I think it was they were doing that as if people were just going to watch the second one, not having seen the first one or not having rewatched the first one before they went to the sequel. To me, it was like, no, I know that that's what happened in the first one. I didn't say that out loud, but there were moments where they kind of beat you over the head with the first movie and trying to make it connect a little bit more with the second one. And
yeah.
you did feel a lot of, what could have been if some of those returning cast members were still alive to reprise their roles. I think Adam Sandler's even said since the movie's come out that they had written a lot for Carl Weathers. Uh, I think, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Even though
absolutely.
even though Chubbs died in the first movie. So I don't know what that maybe in flashbacks, or I'm not sure how that was going to work. Um, but yeah, they had to change some things up there. Otherwise, I think they did a really good job of honoring the rules that were previously held by other actors and actresses who have since passed away. And it was a lot of fun. I really think that the first two acts were strong. The third act was just like, okay, this is crazy. And I guess they had to figure out a way how to end this somehow. Um, but I thought it was a perfectly fine, uh, maybe sometimes blunt homage to the first Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, I mean, I would mostly agree with everything you said just about. I wasn't expecting going in, obviously, for it to kind of live up to the first one. And it's interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but what you were saying about the pre-production process, and they must have been talking about making this movie for years, but it did seem like things came together pretty quickly. And that point about Carl Weathers too, maybe having flashbacks or whatever. I think maybe the thing that popped into my head was he might have done something similar to what Julie Bone ended up doing
Yeah.
as Virginia Bennett, because like you say, the first part of the movie, I would say the first third of it was really actually good and surprising. And I
Yeah.
was like, wait, is this about to live up to the original? And then I think they jumped the shark with the whole
Hmm.
golf super team with the detaching the muscle in
Yeah.
their hip and all that. Like it was just, and then it's just a cameo fest. And then I think they just kind of front loaded the movie with a lot of the good jokes. And then the rest of them, I just felt like, that's not quite hitting me the same. And I just think maybe putting Shooter as more of an antagonist than, say, Benny Safdie's character, who's kind of the main villain, would have
Hmm.
been more interesting. And I just think killing off Virginia Bennett that early. Granted, it led to all those. I thought the hiding the alcohol in like every conceivable
Very funny.
hiding
Very
spot was
funny gag.
hilarious, and just like, so and he needs a reason to kind of get back into golf and after being away, and
And I'll give them
but I
credit. Julie
yeah
Bowen doing all of the marketing, like the all of it
yeah
was her and Adam Sandler. And I was, I'm a Modern Family fan. I was excited to see her in this role again because I think a lot of people maybe forgot that that was her in that original film, and that was one of her
hmm
first roles that she's ever had. And I was like, well, let's see her now, a more developed actress, see what she brings to the character. And it's maybe 5 minutes in, she dies. And obviously it's a little funny, but I was shocked.
yeah
And I
same. I was
was
like, what? They
and
killed
uh
her.
and I thought maybe it was like, oh, maybe she's gonna be like no, it was like she's dead. The Shooter McGavin dynamic, bringing Christopher McDonald back. Yeah, like you said, maybe you do something with him more than you do something with Safdie, and I think that Safdie's character was very distracting. Um, and a lot of people have hated him as a character, but then I guess that's what you want out of a villain. So I'm not sure. Maybe they
hmm
did things right there. At the end of the day, I think it was good to see the characters again. It definitely wasn't like up to the standard of the first one. The first one's pretty zany as well if you go back and watch it. But
Yeah.
I think the best way that I've been able to describe it is like Happy Gilmore. The first one feels like a lot of those 90s crazy run movies that Adam Sandler went on with
hmm
uh The Water Boy and I'm blanking, but all those
Big
other
Daddy,
Big
yeah, yeah.
Daddy, all those other
Billy
classic Adam
Madison,
Sandler
yeah,
movies, Billy Madison, it felt like that one. Like those have the same, like, okay, these all came out around the same time, and Adam Sandler was
sure,
great in these. And this Happy Gilmore 2 feels more like more modern Happy Gilmore or more modern Adam Sandler movies like Grown Ups and blended, just like these weird premises that come together in the end. And if you like Adam Sandler movies, you probably liked Happy Gilmore too. I thought the conversation around it was weird, people being so critical of it. It's funny. It's a comedy, and it's they're bringing back a character that is beloved, and I think they did a good job at the end of the day, bringing it back. I don't know how
yeah.
you're close. I would Happy Gilmore 2. I'd give it a I don't know, a 3.5 probably. It was fine, and I didn't have to pay for it. I had Netflix, so that was, like I said earlier, that helped.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's pretty similar. My final conclusion, I'd go maybe 3 out of 5 or 2.5. Like it's fine. It's in the beginning does a lot of the heavy lifting, but yeah, just I thought the cameos too. I would say the easy standout was Scotty Scheffler and the
Yeah,
whole gag that they do. That
not
was one of the
again.
things toward the end of the movie that of him getting arrested and all that and
Yeah.
referencing that. That was hilarious to me. And he was so good. Like he was so good in the movie. I couldn't believe he
Him
was so natural as an
Him and
actor.
Will Zalatoris, I think, were the standouts as far as the
Right.
cameos go. And
He's the
and and
caddy.
Will Zalatoris, the timeline does not match up whatsoever, but
Not at
it's
all.
a it's a funny but it's a funny gag, and I was very impressed with Will Zalatoris's performance. So
Yeah, same.
though it was a cameo fest, some of the cameos did stand out. So I did appreciate it. And another,
One more
yeah,
thing,
go ahead.
sorry. You nailed it on that like streaming transition earlier, by the way. Just
Thank
wanted
you.
to compliment you and say, oh, it's almost like you've hosted a podcast for years.
I appreciate it,
Um,
Matt.
but I actually ran into Adam Sandler in the wild
Really?
like last month, and I feel like it was probably because he was doing starting press for Happy Gilmore, probably.
Hmm.
But yeah, me and two of my friends are just walking off the train, Jersey City at night. It's so hot, so humid. We're just like trying to get to this bar as soon as possible to just get some air conditioning and just hang out for a bit.
Hmm.
And so we take a different street to shorten our trek to the bar. And there's this guy just like in like a polo and like
Long
running
baggy
shorts
shorts. Yep.
and unloading stuff from the back of this sort of SUV. And we're walking by, and my buddy's girlfriend turns back. She says, that looks like Adam Sandler. And she's like, oh my God, it is Adam Sandler. And then so he hears that and he's like, what's going on, guys? And so and I was walking ahead. I didn't even notice him. And so I turned back. Yeah, he's right there. And
Unreal.
it was just crazy. But unfortunately, there was like this group of seven guys who were just kind of standing out there. and they didn't know it was him either. And then once she had said it, they were like, "Oh, hey, can we get a picture?" They started kind of giving him a hard time. He's like,
Right.
"Ah, guys," it was like 10:30 at night. He's like just trying to get into a
Yeah.
hotel and just like unload his bag. So, but yeah, he's like as nice and gentle and just
That's
open
great
with
to hear.
people as everybody says he is, from the little interaction I had. So
I
that
would,
was that was pretty crazy.
and it's a great Adam Sandler run-in story. I was selfishly hoping that you were like, yeah, so I was playing pickup basketball. No, that would have been
Yeah,
fun
just try
though.
to like hunt him down on one of those
Yeah.
days on one of those courts in New York. Yeah.
But the last movie that we have to get to, another comedy. So I think Happy Gilmore 2, if anything, you can say it's good to just have another comedy get that much attention. And
Yeah.
the comedy that I've been the most excited about to see this summer that I mentioned earlier that I went through, I trekked all the way across town after the movie didn't work the first time just so I could see it. I wanted to support it on its opening weekend. I'm going to go see it again later this week, is The Naked Gun. Uh, I wouldn't call it a reboot. I think it's just like a refresh. Like, hey, it's been a
Yep.
while since this has been done. Let's see if we can do this again. They replace the iconic Leslie Nielsen with Liam Neeson. He plays Frank Drebin Jr. In the film. Pamela Anderson plays the Priscilla Presley type in the movie. I was laughing so much. My wife and I went and saw it, and I love The Naked Gun. I love The Naked Gun 2.5 and The Naked Gun 33 and a third. I'm a fan of all the slapstick comedy movies that I can get my hands on, and they don't make a lot anymore. There's not a lot
Right.
of them. It's a dying breed, and I'm really hoping that The Naked Gun that just came out almost resurrects it because they did it so well. I feel like they had so many great minds get together with this one with Akiva Schaffer from The Lonely Island
Right.
directing, Seth MacFarlane producing. You could tell. And I think Family Guy is that one thing. It's like that's kept slapstick alive. And to have Seth MacFarlane come in and help, I think that made a lot of sense. And not Leslie Nielsen, Liam Neeson, very surprising as a comedy lead. You've seen him in a ton of other things. I think it was perfect. The movie was hilarious. My wife like touched me on the shoulder at some point to say, "Hey, like stop laughing so hard." It's like, "Hey, I mean, I'm enjoying the heck out of this movie. There's a joke every couple seconds. It's breakneck jokes throughout the entire thing, and I would say most jokes landed, and I'm excited to see it again because I know that I missed some things. Uh, but what are your thoughts on The Naked Gun?
Yeah, so I saw it on Thursday, kind of the first day I possibly could, with my usual most consistent two A-list AMC
Hmm.
crew, and we all thought it was very funny, and especially the first 30 minutes. I don't know if I've laughed that hard in the theater, like maybe
I
ever.
know.
It was kind of what you're saying. I'm trying to almost like stop myself from laughing louder. The funniest recent experiences that I can think of are the first Knives Out, which was all the way back in 2019, but that was just one where just everybody's dying laughing,
Hmm.
and Deadpool and Wolverine, and then this one. Those are like the three kind of that stand out as just like making me laugh the hardest in recent years. And having seen it again today, because it's a really easy thing to rewatch. Thankfully, I have a theater pretty close to me, walking distance, and just to see that movie with a full audience is so much fun because
So
everybody's
much
just like
fun.
cracking up. And there are just so many gags, like you say, just the vast majority of the gags work. I would say maybe it loses a little steam at the end, but because they're just doing like plot stuff and they have to like tell some sort of story,
Yeah.
or they felt compelled to. I mean, they could have even gone more ridiculous with some of the stuff with the villain, but y- the whole thing where he goes to meet him at the Eden Tech thing, and you have all those Danny Houston on all those like signs that are just like
Posters. Yeah.
ridiculous. But like, dude, oh my God, the first part, like, I remember the the girl I was referenced earlier who had me kind of inspired me to get on Letterbox. Uh, she was next to me, and that first, literally the first joke of the movie where he picks up the thing out of the blown up
Hmm.
safety deposit box and it says plot device. We were just like
Hilarious.
dying laughing like for like a minute straight just off that
Yeah.
joke, and then it just like set the tone for like everything else that
And that's
happened.
the problem is like you're laughing from a joke and you miss the next joke
Right, you
because
don't
you're
want to like miss the
laughing
next one. Yeah.
because you're laughing from the previous one. It was phenomenally done. I'm honestly being I know Liam Neeson's I think 73 or so.
Yeah.
I would love to see another couple of these cranked out. If they feel like they can keep the quality of it up, that would be the most important thing for me because I think this was a great, honoring the original trilogy, but making it its own thing. It felt standalone, but still obviously had some moments in it that harken back to the original.
Mhm.
Um, and just so many funny jokes. I thought all their performances were really good. And obviously, with a movie like this, you're having actors play things seriously and say a lot of really funny lines. I can't imagine how it was to just be around on set whenever some of these things were happening. But I'd give it a 5 out of 5. And I know that I'm biased because I love the Naked Gun movies, but I think it was a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I would say 5 out of 5 too. I mean, I'm pretty generous with stuff like that, and not all 5 out of 5s are created equal, but like this is truly like one of the best comedies I've seen in a very long
Yeah.
time. And I had rewatched the original first movie
Hmm.
before this. I don't think I'd ever seen it all the way through. I just seen bits and pieces of all three of them on TV and just elsewhere and stuff. But yeah, the first one was really good. But I honestly think might like this one a little better.
Hmm.
And maybe just because of the more modern sense
Right.
of humor, sensibilities, all that stuff. And like you said, Akiva Schaffer and all the brilliant minds that brought together Seth MacFarlane on board to produce. But yeah, Liam Neeson's sort of just deadpan delivery and action tough guy thing. And his voice is like almost comically raspy at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, he was great. And that went over as well. I hope that's one that does well at the box office and gets people out. And the
Me
fact that it's
too.
so short too, it doesn't take up a
Very
lot of time.
digestible. Felt
Yeah,
long.
exactly.
Felt long in some parts too. The direct reference to Mission Impossible Fallout was something that I really appreciated as well. I know we don't have a ton of time to get into all the gags, but
That's a great bookend on the
yeah,
movies we talked about. Yeah.
it was phenomenal. Go see it if you love comedies. It'll make you laugh. And we don't have a ton of time, Matt. I do want to just point out that both of us have been very intrigued by the movie Weapons. The marketing
Yes.
for that movie has been very well done, to the point where I hate horror movies, and I'm like, I might have to go see this just to see what's up. And I know there's a couple other movies that if you want to shout them out real quick, but we got less than a minute, Matt. We have to wrap it up. Um, any
Yeah,
other
that's
movies that you're looking
okay.
at?
That's okay. I was big on the first Wicked movie. I would say Wicked for Good, November 21st is looking good. And then the Roof Man movie with Channing Tatum. I'm a
Yeah, yeah,
big
yeah.
Channing Tatum guy, so that looks really fun too. But Weapons as well. I think the writer director got like $10 million like once he was selling this
Hmm.
story. Like it was a bidding war for the script. It should be really, really
Hey,
fascinating.
we might have to come back and recap some of those. Who knows? We'll see what happens. This might be our thing where we just watch movies and talk about them, and I'd be fine with that. But
That'd be cool.
I want to thank you, Matt, for hopping on, giving your expertise. Great time as always. But that's going to do it for this episode. So my name is Quinn Eaton,
I'm Matt Fitzgerald.
and this has been All You Need to Know.
This has been All You Need to Know. If you have a topic you would like to hear about, message us on Twitter or Facebook or send us an email at allyouneedthenumber2know00@gmail.com. Rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And tune in every Wednesday because here at AYN2K, we've got you covered.